story featuring a newcomer to the channel. This guy goes by the name of Dijon. He's a hip hop artist. I'm not very familiar with who he is, but apparently he's a rather big deal because he's been nominated for a couple of Grammys, and he's starting to talk more and more about his musical journey and things that he has going on. But something that I thought was interesting that he said was that he is dissatisfied with the current course of musical critiques, and he feels like music critics in general need to be a little more constructive and a bit firmer in terms of how they
Mm.
go about doing their jobs because it's become a little too soft. So this says Dijon calls on music critics to go harder in their reviews, be less kind. Dijon believes music criticism, at least in its current state, is a little bit too soft. The baby artist and recent SNL musical guest, who's up for two potential Grammy wins at next year's ceremony thanks to his work on Justin Bieber's Swag album, gave his decidedly astute assessment in a recent conversation with Pitchfork for the publication's long running Over Under series. As to declare whether music criticism at large was overrated or underrated, Dijon ultimately came to the conclusion that it is indeed the latter after outlining its undeniable importance in his early life. I moved around so much that music criticism was how I learned about things. I mean, I had cousins and stuff, all the early rap music that I grew up around was given to me. But when I started branching out and I was not really tethered to a space anymore, I would read a ton of music journalism and just try to figure out what CDs to torrent. It really changed my life. I value it quite a bit. I still read a lot of music criticism. These days, however, Dijon feels critics aren't digging in hard enough. This has been a growing critique as of late, particularly in music, as it seems some have traded valuable criticism for a softer approach that ensures artists access. I think it's I think it's a little bit too soft now. I think all criticism should be dangerously harsh, actually, so underrated. Pitchfork, honestly, you guys can go harder. I think that you can go harder. Yeah, be less kind, I think. The 33-year-old is currently on the road in support of Baby, recently ranked by Complex as one of the best albums of 2025, coming in at number 27 between projects from Olivia Dean and Carol G. He's scheduled to hit Detroit and Minneapolis this week before taking the tour overseas in January. So I'm not very familiar with this guy's catalog, to be honest, but I was definitely appreciative of what he had to say there. Do you think that there's any merit to that? You muted.
My bad. Damn. But yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely, bro. Like, I mean, I know you talk about this all the time, man. And I really didn't pay attention to it. I noticed it, but I didn't like it wasn't like registering. Um, but yeah, this has been going on since the blog days, since the guys were doing all the blogging, and there were guys that were critical of people still. I felt back in those days when it started. But then once these blogs realized that they're making enemies of these artists and or labels, they started to change their behavior, and everything became dope and hot. So then it went from me trusting these people as a source to actually going, hey man, you're recommending people that I think are garbage. Before, I used to come over here to hear from people that I've never heard of before, to know who they are and appreciate it. But now it just seems like you're feeding me these people as if you're part of the label. And I don't want commercial. I want underground. I want what the streets want. And I don't think the streets want this. So you sitting there talking about, oh yeah, 5 out of 5 with this mixtape. I'm like, 5 out of 5. Wow. Yeah. Let me give that a spin. And I'm listening to it and it's ass.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, this is straight cheap. What are you talking about? And so yeah, I lost it was some blogs I used to check out all the time, man, and they just kept losing credibility with me to the point where I just tuned out completely. And it's not like and that was before, blogs really faded out. Like I left before everybody left. But then, that streamlined into YouTube content, and then, the bigger channels, uh they were more or less doing the same thing where everything was hot and I couldn't stand it. You know, there was a few dudes out there that kept it real, and I would check in with those people, and I still kind of do sometimes. And for the most part, they're objective and they're giving their own personal takes, and they don't like certain people. They glaze others, but there's others they don't like, and that's what I want. I want a balance at least. There's people out here that just do nonstop glazery, and I can't stand. I can't stomach it because I know the cap is real. It's just like whenever they would have a guest come to studio or whatever, and hey, last guest you had in studio was the dopest artist you've heard this year.
Yeah, right.
Now this guy's in here. Now he's got the best album, but I thought the last guy had the best album. Like, which one is it? So then I got tired of those people. So all in all, man, I just think it's a form of capitalistic commercial ass media who are just doing and saying whatever it takes for these industry plant artists to find their way into the mainstream. And to me, it's disgusting. So I rarely take people's opinion, about music nowadays, because of all of this. And this has been going on for at least over a decade. Where I've noticed it because I noticed this, like I said, back in the blog days. So this was 2008, 2009.
Yeah. Even before that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so I listen, man. So nowadays, I'm completely jaded, and I only listen to actual people who recommend stuff. Like a regular person, because I scroll across their video and they telling me about XYZ, and I'll go check that out. But these formalized forms of media, I don't buy anything they're selling. But what are your thoughts, man, on this Dijon guy saying that, hey, man, these media outlets need to be a little bit more critical of these artists nowadays? What are your thoughts, bro?
Of course, I agree with him 100,000 million trillion percent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, music criticism to me died right around the time that traditional media died. So I think once traditional media, newspapers, cable TV, magazines, traditional websites, because even that's dead now because everything is just social media feeds.
Mm-hmm.
Once that stuff gave way to podcasts and you know YouTube and stuff like that, that's pretty much when like the art of music criticism to me died,
Mm-hmm.
because back when traditional media was reigning supreme, everyone had to go to one central source in order to be able to get their information. So if you wanted to know about the latest album, you had to watch BET Rap City the Basement, or you know what I'm saying. You had to read somebody. You had to read the Source or any of these magazines. You had to seek these outlets out. I remember anytime I wanted to know whether an album was good or not, or just to read a review to get a general sense of how good it could be, I would go to like FYE's website or any of these various other webs or any of these other web pages, because whenever a new album came out, there was a write up of the album, and it was always in depth, and it went into how good or bad it was, some of the constructive critiques. And I would always use that as a general barometer to be able to determine whether I wanted to give it a particular listen or two. And as traditional media gave way to new media, I feel like that died, because with new media, it's all about curating your audience and curating your own place in the algorithm. So you need your show to
Mm-hmm.
get as many views as possible, and you need your show to get as many subscribers as possible, and you want your individual show or platform to have as many likes and comments as possible, so that it can get served up more.
Yep.
And the best way for you to be able to
Mm-hmm.
create a pathway for that to happen is if you get some of these artists to actually be on your show, or to at the very least feel favorably about your platform, so that you can perhaps establish some sort of a working relationship or get them to be some sort of a semi-regular guest. But of course, that's not
Mm-hmm.
going to happen if you write a review of this person's album saying that it's not that good. So in order to,
Correct.
in order to sidestep compromising your ability to being able to prop up your own platform, you basically forsake constructive criticism when it comes to the actual art of the music itself, in lieu of making sure that that person feels favorably about whatever it is that you're doing. And so as a result of that, constructive critiques when it comes to the music are completely and totally non-existent at this point. And you mentioned the blog days.
Hmm.
Like my earliest recollection of this is the early 2000s, where we really started to see the disintegration of traditional hip hop media, um, in lieu of all this new stuff, in lieu of podcasting and YouTubing, and now TikToking, even stuff
Hmm.
like Instagram, when stuff like live started to become a thing, or even Twitter. When live Twitter feeds were a thing back in the day, there were artists who would be tweeting on behalf of some random platform. So it's like this is this artist doing a live tweeting session for about 45 minutes to an hour, but they weren't doing it from their own channel. They were doing it from the profile of Double XL or Complex or whomever. And so that's invaluable impressions for Double XL or it's invaluable impressions for Double XL or Complex, because it's like, oh, we got J. Cole or whom. I'm just making up random names because I'm not saying J. Cole actually did this. But it's
Hmm.
like, oh, we got J. Cole, or we got Wale, or we got these other, trending people tweeting on our behalf. This works for us. Well, that person is less likely to actually do that if they think that you think what they do sucks. So, best way to be able to facilitate them continuing to work with us is just do away with constructive criticism when it comes to the music. But what ends up happening with that is stuff that's not good gets passed off as good.
Right.
And that's the problem that I have, is
Yeah.
you're selling me on the idea that something is a classic, and then I actually believe you and go
You're
and
right.
listen to it, and it sucks.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm offended by that. Like, that offends my musical sensibilities. I remember last year I was listening to Hip Hop Nation on Sirius XM, and they were just glazing the hell out of this dude Blast, saying that his album was a classic, an absolute classic. And so I get on Spotify, because if you're gonna glaze it like that, I don't want to miss out. So let me go listen to it. And I like one song on the whole thing.
Of course.
Like, one song on the whole. And look, it's no disrespect to him. I just didn't think it was that good. I didn't like it.
Hmm.
And when you juxtapose it to the way that they were talking about it, calling it a class, to me, the word classic, words mean something to me. And for you to sit here in my face and sell me on the idea that something is a quote unquote classic, I
Hmm.
take that seriously,
Hmm.
because I come from a world where The Blueprint is a classic. And
Hmm.
I come from a world where, like, Life After Death is a classic, and All Eyes on Me is a classic, and Stankonia is a classic. Like, in my world, those are classics. So when you tell me Blast is a classic,
That
and
don't
I
even
go
sound right.
and I go and listen to it, and I only like one song, it's just like, okay, well, this is where we are with this. So there's that expression that a rising tide lifts all boats. I think that that's true when it comes to artistic mediums. If you uphold a higher standard, you are forcing artists to either capitulate to that standard or not make it. And I would rather we live in a world where there's a certain standard when it comes to quality of music. And if that standard can't be met, then you just can't survive in this ecosystem. And it is what it is. Everybody can't go. But right now, we've opened the floodgates, and everybody's being let in because there's such a low standard when it comes to an interpretation of quality of music. So I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, and I think it's a byproduct. This situation is just a byproduct of these corporations using these various independent media sources as part of their antennae, their tentacles of, again, paying off their investment. So whenever they invest in these shields, these industry plant, non-talent artists, uh, they literally pay these websites because where else are they going to make their money? Advertising.
Yeah, that's dead.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do these places stay afloat if
Yeah.
it isn't direct checks from these labels? So when you go onto a site now that's generated towards hip hop, for instance, you're going to see the same people on there all the time because they're paying for a slot. And so long as that they stay in the media and in rotation, they're going to stay on top of the algorithm and all of that good stuff. And so, because there's no reason I should see Lotto's name as much as I see it. She doesn't do anything. You know, Ice Spice, I shouldn't see her, you know, every week when we out here looking for topics. And it's absolutely nothing. And you know, other things, Meg the Stallion, you know, it's just pointless articles. It's like, you know, I get it, it's a little clickbaitish, it's a little I guess algorithm play, you know, because everybody knows these people, everybody wants to know what they're getting involved in. But at the same time, it's a situation of why are you talking about them? And if they do release a song or something like that, I know about it because they have an article about it. And it's like, well, you're not talking about X, Y, or Z or whoever else down there, but you're talking about these people's music as if it's kind of good. And it's like, it's not. This is a paid slot. It's literally part of their budget for advertising. And so when you funnel that stuff in to these websites or these blog places or these reaction channels where they go, ooh, yeah, yeah. A quick block on TikTok, I will block the shard out of your behind. If I see you reacting to a song, it's just completely garbage. They're not saying anything. Woke up, went to the bathroom. Oh shit! They're in the top of the. Oh, damn! You went to the bathroom. Damn. Like, what did he say? He didn't say anything. Block. I go to this page and block because I don't want to see that in my feed again. I don't want to see that person in my feed again. Why? They're not trustworthy. First of all, they're overzealous with their reactions. Second of all, it's like you're clearly getting paid to do this. I don't want to see anything that you're getting paid to do if this is the type of stuff you're going to put in my feed. So I block those guys instantly. It's part of advertising. It's part of you branding yourself now. It's paying for people to say that you're hot. It's so much of that. So who's being real? And how much does it pay to be real nowadays? So you have to be doing it for the love of the game. You can't be doing it for a lifestyle because you'll get blackballed out of everything. You're never going to get that exclusive interview with X, Y, or Z, or you're not going to be able to go backstage and do this, or whenever you're doing, you're not going to be able to invite, you know, you can't go to Coachella with a media pass. They're not going to mess with you. So people play ball. It's part of the politics and it's big money. So, you know, this guy, he can ask and he can request for these people to be more critical, but it's going to fall on deaf ears. Like, it has to be really somebody out there that doesn't give a damn. And they're just giving their honest takes and they're not looking for these checks. But these websites, these online magazines, these really big YouTube channels, these really big reaction channels, it's part of their check. And so they're not going to turn down, because if you shard on one artist over here from Interscope, there's a whole bunch of Interscope money you're going to miss out on later. So it's not even just that one artist you're going to miss out on. Interscope's not going to mess with you because you see what I'm saying? So it's bogus, man. So that's why there's really not much credibility to it. That's why I say I stick with independent people, regular, everyday people that's recommending me music. And then I'll say, okay, I'll listen to that. But anything from any of these outlets, I don't trust it. I have reason to believe it's more trash than good. So yeah, I don't even waste my time.
Yeah, and look, man, to any Blast fans out there, no disrespect to Blast. I'm not saying that the guy's not talented.
That's what you just said.
I'm just saying that last album that he put out last year, that is not a classic, unless we are going to redefine what that word means, because we can't be throwing around words like that as if they're meaningless. Like, the word classic means something. Like, if some of the greatest hip hop albums ever made are considered classics, then that shouldn't be put into the same category, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, it's funny too. It's interesting. This doesn't seem to have impacted the film industry as much, from what I can tell.
Mm.
I'll still read a movie review, and if the movie sucks, they'll rip the movie to shreds. So the constructivism still exists in the movie space, but it just seems to not be around in music. And I'm pretty sure anybody who's an advocate for this will say, well, music is interpretive, and it's it's not, it's subjective. It's not. Well, so are movies. Movies are interpretive and subjective. Like art is, like, this stuff is art. It's all an entertainment medium. Like there's no rubric on what constitutes a good movie or vice or lack thereof. Just like there's no rubric on what constitutes a good song or a good musical album. Yet for whatever reason, music gets a pass for being bad. Um, Under the microscope that it's subjective and it's art and it's up for interpretation, as if movies don't operate along those same lines. They do. But when it comes to the movies, at least, if a movie sucks, they'll write that. I see it still. Like there'll be a bad movie that'll come out, and the reviews will be like, "Hey, man, this movie's not good." So when it comes to music in particular, more specifically hip hop, that seems to have eroded because you want access to the artists, and so it is what it is. But I'm not a fan of the dynamic because I think it dilutes the overall quality, and I think it's just opening up the floodgates. It's very reminiscent. It gives me a very participation trophy feel.
Yep.
Like y'all, you showed up, and even though you got boat raced and blown out, we're gonna give you a ribbon or a participation trophy anyway, even though y'all team sucked and you got blown out. That's
Yep.
kind of what this feels like. Like these people put out bad music and they get rewarded for it, not from the standpoint of having fans who are willing to listen to it, but having it critically lauded as if it's something that it's not. And that to me is diluting the quality of the music, in my opinion.
Yep. Agree 1000%, bro.
So shouts out to this guy Dijon. Probably not going to listen to your music, but I do enjoy your perspective on this one.
Yeah, I listened to like a few seconds of it just now, but
You,
I might. It seems conceptual,
yeah,
so I might have to. I'm gonna have to spend some time to listen to it because it wasn't straightforward. It seemed like a lot was going on. So shout out to Dijon, man. Maybe
uh,
you're the last of a dying breed, bro.
I'm going to come to you so that you can give me your impression of those. I'm gonna come to you so that you can give me your impression of those few seconds.
Yeah, man, it's a classic, bro. It's dope.